If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the writing is sort of everything, right? Like you can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
so some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by a London-based urban fantasy writer and anime and manga enthusiast. It's Jackson P. Brown. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be speaking with you. I like to jump right in with these episodes, so let's kick things off by talking about the book, your debut novel, The Reaper, which is out on the 10th of July. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it's a London-based urban fantasy that reimagines the Grim Reaper as a supernatural assassin born with a killing curse. And he meets a Jamaican empath during the awakening of his powers. And together they team up to solve crimes in London. And whilst they're doing all of this, there is a secret city underneath London where all of the magical creatures live, and they sometimes wreak a bit of havoc.
Sometimes. Yeah. When I think of, it's funny because when I think of the Grim Reaper in literature, and it's been used a lot, but for me, my touchstone is Terry Pratchett's characterization of death. Obviously, that is a far and distant interpretation to yours. Yeah. But what made you want to write a story about the Grim Reaper?
To be honest with you, he does play a role in this because when I was a teenager, I just had an interest in these type of stories about death and like Grim Reapers and things. And I had written a short story for my English literature coursework about a young girl who can see the Grim Reaper. And when I told my mum about it, she was like, "Oh, have you read Terry Pratchett yet?" And then she borrowed me her copy of Mort. And then that kind of contextualized it for me because he's such a strange version of death. Mm-hmm. And I think it just gave me the confidence to play around a bit more with the concept that you can really do whatever you want with it, as long as the theme is around, killing or death in some way. And yeah.
But it doesn't have to be, the thing Terry Pratchett's Grim Reaper taught me is that like it doesn't have to be scary and dark and stuff. He's actually very like gentle and kind in some ways.
Yes, yeah. So my one, he's quite polite. He likes drinking tea. He's quite posh as well. So he's quite middle class and everything. And he has just a lot of comforts and things. So that's where some of the humor comes in because the empath, she's much more, bolshy and that they make a nice team together. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like the part of this was sort of influenced by a Terry Pratchett sort of origin loosely. And then you mentioned that there's comedy. Is it important to you that there is like a funny side to all these things, that there is a lightness to it?
Yeah, because some parts of the story can get quite dark. Because in this one, they are trying to track down a criminal warlock's people trafficking ring. So there are quite a lot of dark moments, and there's a lot of discussion on racism and abuse and things like that in the story. So I do think you do need those moments of lightheartedness just to keep the story, not too depressing, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to level things out, if only a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's set in London. You yourself are from London. I'm guessing a lot of the places that are explored in the book are also places that you're familiar with.
Yeah, I guess anyone who's visited London will definitely spot some places. I mean, they go to Covent Garden and they're in the main museums. They're around South Kensington. They go to Harrods. The first chapter is in Dishoom. So,
I love Dishoom.
Yeah, there'll be, so do I. So there's a lot of places there where people will recognise. The Grim Reaper himself, he lives in St Pancras Station in the Renaissance Hotel. So, there's definitely places that you can spot and you'll be like, oh, I've been there before.
Oh, okay. So if you were really into it, you could probably do the tour, the Reaper tour of London.
Yeah, definitely.
And dialing it back a bit, I'd love to hear a bit more about you and your kind of like experiences with writing and publishing. How much have you written before The Reaper?
Yeah, I've always been writing, probably since like primary school. So the book,
Okay.
one of the dedications is to my primary school teacher, Miss Matthews, because she was one who told me you have to keep writing. So I've always loved writing. And before The Reaper, I had written 2 novels that I had tried to query to agents. The second one was a dystopia, and I had it hadn't really been getting a lot of legs, but I had entered it into a competition. And that kind of put me on the path to getting The Reaper published, actually, which is strange because I was told that at the time dystopia wasn't really a thing, but now it's really coming back. So I've got it like on the back burner, just waiting for a time to polish it up again and maybe submit it.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think it was about 5 years ago or so, and everything I heard about publishing was that dystopia is not popular and YA is not popular, and that's totally the opposite of, I think, what things are like now.
Yeah, no, like they're both really popping off again, especially dystopia. I mean, this year there's been about, I think, 3 or 4 major dystopias coming out this year. So, yeah.
Which is probably a worrying reflection of the state of the world. But
yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
It's a bit speculative. So you've been writing forever, and you had 2 kind of fully finished novels before you did The Reaper. Whilst you were cutting your teeth on like those earlier novels, that earlier writing, did you ever do any writing courses, or do you have any like craft books or anything like that?
Yeah, I did do. I did enroll in one writing course. It was like a local London one, but it was quite pricey. This was during lockdown, so we've been put on furlough as well. So I did have to leave that one eventually because some of them are quite expensive. And when I was in uni, I did do creative writing course as well. So I've done like a few courses, and I guess my favorite craft book would be Stephen King's on writing. It just taught me a lot about it and how to be, he's quite strict and he's quite determined with like how much he writes a day, and he really commits to it. So I guess that was it's always been inspiring for me, just to, even if it's like 300 words a day, I just try to write something every day.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy way of looking at it. Stephen King, from what I know of that book, is very extreme, and it's like you must treat it like a 9-to-5 job, and you must write from 9 to 5 every day. Yeah,
it's easy for him because that's all he has.
Yeah, it's easy when you're like one of the best-selling novelists of all time.
I wish I could write every day, but you have to do it in between like childcare and work and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were to recommend a craft book to people, that's the one that you would kind of go to.
Yeah, it would be because I like how vulnerable he's in it as well, because he kind of weaves it into his life story too. So I feel like there's a bit of something for everyone in that book.
If you think back to your kind of earlier writing and your earlier, whether it was a finished novel or just like the first novel you wrote, how much of the sort of conceptualizing and forming a novel process how much has that evolved for you since you first started?
I think before I was, because I was so much younger, I know that I really heavily just regurgitated everything that I was already reading and watching at the time. And I was really into like fan fiction as well. So it's like when you have a lot of a fanfic background and then you read a book that's really, really interesting, and you find that a lot of the stuff is just almost a fanfic version of what you've just read. There was a lot of that going on when I was much younger. And then as I got older, because I've had so many like periods where I've had years where I've just reading literary fiction, or some years where I'm more focusing on like TV shows and films. So I think the more I've ingested and consumed, I think it's definitely helped me see even just the different ways to start a novel, and how some people, they have different experimental styles and things. And it does help I think it's helped me to find my own voice more than when I was much younger. But it's still very much the same in terms of how I structure. I'm not someone who can really do like mind maps and things. My mind is too chaotic. So even to do a mind map, I think I'll get confused. So I have to just start from chapter 1, and I just keep writing like chronologically. I don't do the whole, like, some people, they do a chapter at the end and in the middle and they work up to it. I can't even do that. I'll just get confused.
Yeah, the advice I've heard on that, in terms of if you write out of order, and I think it's less people write out of order than I think it's a minority. But the advice I'd heard is that if you're really excited about a chapter and you've been thinking about something, but it happens way later in the story, you should just write it straight away because you've got all this excitement and energy for it. Whereas if you wait, you might not have that same energy when you come to actually write the chapter. Which makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, there are some times when there'll be like a conversation between two characters that I think I have to, so I don't forget, I'll quickly just put it in my the notes app on my phone or something like that. But in terms of writing, like, you know, it'll have to always be little passages or little lines of just conversations between characters rather than like a chapter.
Yeah, okay. Stephen King wouldn't like that. As far as I know, he doesn't like notes. He doesn't believe in note taking. So, so you'd be in trouble with him.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like how much your writing has developed, this is an interesting question because I find that most people have been writing for some time before they land their book deal. And a lot of the time going through the traditional publishing system, working with an agent, working with an editor, that can really influence the way that you write. Do you think that has really informed your writing and how you're going to write in the future?
Yeah, I think what I realized is really eye-opening, finally getting editorial feedback for my work. And yeah, I've realized that sometimes my similes and metaphors, they can just do their own thing. You know, sometimes you have an image in your head and you're just, by the time, you know, you've written all out, it doesn't even make sense anymore. And so it's helped me to be a bit more economical with how I put, you know, just like the little flair. You don't want to do too much. And I think before I definitely was someone who did too much. You know, I can definitely like write too much. So I think it's helped me to, just scale it back a little bit and be neater in how I get an idea across. And it's helped me with like so much of my, just not even just with like the Reaper and the books that's part of the series, but just everything that I've written since then. I think rather than getting there in 10 words, I just find a single word that can just properly, convey what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
because editors are very in tune with pace and like whether something needs to be concise or if something deserves more of a flourish on the page. So I think that's I think that's definitely something that is often picked up on. And then my follow-up question to that is, am I right in thinking that you're writing a second novel as a sequel to the Reaper?
Yes, the edits are just with with my editor now, the manuscript. Yeah. Okay,
right. So you're well underway with that whole process. Second novels, I've spoken to lots of authors and they often talk about or like look back on the second novel as something that they struggled with, I think, more than they expected. So how are you finding the process of doing the second novel?
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I think because so much of the story had already been like planned out in my head, I knew what I wanted to happen in the book. So writing it was really quite simple for me, and I didn't really struggle with the writing. I think it is the anticipation when I sent it off to my editors, because I'm still waiting for their feedback. I think that's the first time I actually felt genuinely nervous. Especially because now I'm in a situation where I'm talking to other debuts who are also writing their second books, and we have like a group chat, and they're all coming back and saying how the editors don't like their second book and don't like their sequels, and they're having to write all over again. It's caused a lot of stress and anxiety. And I didn't know that was even a thing that really happened. So hearing all those stories has actually made me quite nervous. So I have no idea how the team feels about the sequel, especially because certain characters, you know, they have certain problematic moments and things. And so, yeah, I'm really kind of nervous to hear back from them about it.
Oh, okay. So we're speaking as in they've just got the first draft. You haven't even.
Yeah, they just got the first draft. So I have no idea how they feel about it. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. Hopefully they love it and they only want to make minor adjustments to it, and you'll be good. But it's a funny old industry, and kind of anything can happen. But I mean, either way, it's a 2-book deal, right? So no matter what happens, you will be able to write a second book, which will be published by them. Yeah,
actually, it's a 3-book deal, so it's just like
3. Boom.
So this book is really important. That they like the direction, because it will completely change how I do the 3rd book, and yeah.
Okay,
so
right. Yeah. Is this like this kind of world, this story with these characters? Is that kind of the only thing that you're interested in writing right now, or do you have other ideas which are kind of ticking along in the background for different like standalones or stories or whatever?
Yeah, I have quite a few stuff because I write quite prolifically, so I can have like several things on the go. So I've already written in between writing the 2nd book and the 3rd book. So I have a draft of the 3rd book in the series already, so that's already done. And then I've written 2 of other novels while I was waiting between edits for the Reaper, like the 1st book. So I have so I don't know, I have an issue. But I have, so it's much darker. It's a horror/horror-manch duology. But they both work as standalones. But because they have like similar themes, I just told my agent I like them as, 2 books, 2 like companion books, should I say.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I got that going on. And I've written like a few thousand words of like 3 different books that I have just thinking about, but they're more like epic fantasy, more like the high fantasy. And then there's one that's more like a dark fantasy comedy, I'd say. So yeah.
Okay, sounds like you've got quite a range on you there.
Yeah.
That's cool. That and also, like you said, writing very prolifically. To keep up that kind of pace, do you have like a schedule? Do you lock yourself in a la Stephen King and do like, I'm going to write at this time every day in this place, or is it as and when?
It actually is more as and when. So when I'm really into the throes of it, the reason why I have to start a book when I'm really passionate about it, because I will just naturally consistently write every day until the whole thing is done. So sometimes that would mean when my son is in bed and everyone's in bed, I'll just write from like 9 p.m. to like midnight, and then just start to do it again the next day. And because my day job is in IT and I work from home, if there is like a slow moment in the day, like during my break times and lunch times, I'll then write then as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just how I get the words in.
Okay, and you can, are you the kind of person that can write anyway, or do you need a specific, like, do you need like I need to be in my writing spot at this, with like a hot drink, or are you just good to go whenever?
Yeah, no, it has to be somewhere where I'm just alone. So I can't really do it on like the train or something. I might sometimes when I'm feeling like really extra, I'll go to, I don't know, like a cafe and find a table. But if the table isn't like in the corner, then I'll just go home. If you know, I just won't bother because I won't be able to get into the zone. So yeah.
I get it. Yeah, you need to hit that like flow state, and if there's too many distractions, you're just going to get taken out of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before we head over to the desert island, I was looking online at your website and some of your bios, and I saw that you are, as I mentioned in the intro, a self-proclaimed lover of anime and manga. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned before consuming all the different media, whether that be books, whether that be television, film. has all kind of influenced your storytelling and evolved it over time. Do you think if you brought elements of anime and manga storytelling into your writing, because they have some quite distinct forms within them?
Yeah, they do. I'll definitely say the fight sequences are
that's what
inspired
I
by.
thought it would be.
Yeah, a lot of the anime manga that I read, it's like from Berserk and Bleach and Frieren, and there's just so much like big fantasy epics, and the fight sequences are always so exciting. The fight sequences, but also a lot of the backstories, because something that a lot of manga authors they always have like these big tragic backstories or these big backstory sequences in their for their characters. And so some of the side characters in the Reaper, as they're kind of gearing up to battle, they do have moments where they're thinking about their past and like how they got to be where they are. So I do have a bit of that in there as well.
Oh yeah. They're like flashback inner monologue.
Yeah.
At like what would seem like a very inappropriate time in real life.
Yeah, because honestly, I had too much of those. That was one of the edits. They said, okay, this is because the fight is actually happening. You're slowing down the pace here, so I did have to scale a lot of that back during the final like third of the book.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because I thought it would be the fights, because there's something that it's hard to find in other mediums. And I would say I'm a casual enjoyer of anime. I've watched the big ones. I've watched Bleach actually, but I've watched like Attack on Titan, cool. Demon Slayer.
Yes, Attack on Titan, yeah.
But there's something that the fight scenes, the sequences and action sequences in anime is just, there's something really fascinating about the way that it's sort of suddenly very fast and then suddenly stops and is very slow. Yes. And then suddenly very fast again. And somehow it just keeps the pace and it keeps you riveted, and they do so much exposition during each of those things, which is just really cool. Yeah, that they do. I think one of my favorite series right at the moment is Sakamoto Days, and it's about an ex-hitman who now works in a convenience store, but people keep trying to kill him from his past. They're coming back to like hunt him down, and some of the fights are just so ridiculous, and so it could never happen. Like he's catching bullets with chopsticks and things like that, but it's so thrilling to read and to watch that it's like impossible not to be inspired by, well, if I have a character who's literally the Grim Reaper and he can kill with a touch and stuff, like he can do whatever he wants to do. So I do play around with like all the mad stuff that he could possibly do as a supernatural assassin. Yes, yeah. There's definitely an imagination in manga and anime, which is just, you're like, that's so just wild. I've never read the manga, but I watched the Netflix live action adaptation of One Piece. And I was not expecting it to be good, because I've seen the other anime adaptations, but I actually found, I was like, this is so ridiculous, but it's actually kind of fun. And I ended up watching the whole thing, and I was like, that was a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, it was. I was really impressed with it, because I was one of the people that just assumed it was never going to work, but somehow they pulled it off. Yeah. And I think the casting was key, and like just the way that they didn't take itself seriously, I think was very, very key as well, because they did the Death Note one a while ago, and it just looked so bad. I didn't even want to bother. It was really bad. Yeah, no, it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, I think I tried for I turned off after 10 minutes. It just didn't work for me. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are at the point in the episode where I pack up all your things and drive you off into the middle of nowhere, dump you on a desert island, and ask you, if I were to do this, but leave you with a single book, which book do you hope that it would be? It would actually be volume 9 of my favorite manga series called Berserk. It's a very deep, very dark fantasy about a mercenary called Guts, who's on a journey of self-discovery. And in the 9th volume, he finally admits his feelings to another mercenary who's just been fighting alongside him for quite some time. And then she realizes how she feels about him. And it's a really beautiful moment between them. Because the series is so dark and so dreary, it's actually such a beautiful thing when they get together. And that happens in volume 9. So you have to go through 8 volumes of like guts and killing, and then you get to the sweet bit in the 9th volume. So that's what I'll bring with me. Okay, that sounds great. And I have heard, I've not experienced Berserk, but I've heard only good things from people talking about it.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Although what you've described there is also one of the like pitfalls that a lot of anime falls into, where people are like, "Oh, you've got to watch this anime," and then I'll try and watch it, and I'll be like, it's not great, and then they'll be like, "Oh no, but it gets good around season 4," and I'm like, I'm not gonna watch 3 seasons of this so that I can get to the good bit.
That's how it is in One Piece. People swear you have to get to like episode 40.
I'm like, that's so much time. The only one I've ever done that with was Code Geass, because my friend was so insistent, and I was not vibing with it for the first 10 episodes, and I was like, I don't know about this, and then I stuck with it, and I'm glad it was good in the end.
Yes, it does take a while. It's one of those ones where I feel like the ending kind of justifies the means almost, because it's like,
yeah,
it's like
the only
it needs
one.
that, literally, yeah.
The end, they stuck the ending so well that I was like, fine, I'll allow that the beginning was bad. If this was publishing, not even your editor, it wouldn't even get to the editor. The agent would have said, no, we are cutting the first 5 chapters and we're starting there.
Yeah.
That's what it needed. It needed a publishing person to come and be like, listen, guys, the story doesn't start until way later than you think. Awesome. Berserk, that's absolutely on my list of things to check out already. But I guess I'll raise it higher now that you've taken it to the desert island. Next up, I have got some more questions. We've touched on it, but I will talk a bit more about querying agents and landing a book deal. That will be in the extended episode, available at www.patreon.com/rightandwrong.
Even if a few hundred people see your video, then that's a few hundred people who didn't know you existed before. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't need to get millions and millions of impressions. You don't know who's watching that might just be like, maybe I'll check that book out.
Exactly.
Amazing. That brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you so much, Jackson, for coming on and chatting with me and sharing all of your kind of experiences with writing and publishing, and telling us all about your debut novel, The Reaper, which is once again out on the 10th of July in all the usual places. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
And for anyone listening, if you want to keep up with what Jackson is doing, you can follow her on Twitter and Instagram @_Jack P. Brown, on TikTok @JackPBrownAuthor. To support this podcast, like, follow and subscribe, join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes, and check out my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again, Jackson, and thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Shout out time. One of my amazing patrons, Lee Foxton, is querying their debut novel. It's a family drama, commercial fiction along the lines of Jojo Moyes and David Nichols. Fingers crossed, I am rooting for you. Good luck.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.